welcome back to my studio on a beautiful, absolutely beautiful autumn morning here in Cumbria in the UK. Hello and welcome to you from all around the world. All of those of you in foreign parts, hello and welcome. And to those of you in the UK, of course, welcome to you too. It's just so lovely to know so many people are watching from all around the world. It makes me very excited. When I come down here, you know, I live in a tiny little village, kind of in the middle of nowhere, and that nobody's ever heard of. And I think, well, you know, how lucky I am to be connecting with all of you wonderful creative people all around the world. It's lovely. And thank you so much. Oh, sorry, I've just got bits of hair everywhere this morning. Thank you so much for your comments last week about the piece that we're busy making. I'll talk about that in a moment. But first of all, I've had a couple of requests. Okay, guys, behind me, my little friend up here. Let's move that out of the way. My friend up here. I think I'll have to stand up to get this down because it's kind of, she's a big girl. She's a big girl, this one. Okay, so this is a wave that I made a number of years ago. I seem to remember I made it as part of an Open Studios event, and I wanted something to go in a window that would be sort of eye-catching so that it wasn't just 2D, like a picture or something. So I created this wave, and I've had quite a few requests as to how I made it. Now obviously I made it a while ago, so I can't entirely exactly remember how I made it. I'll just show you, I'll show you the inside. It's like looking into the lens of my camera, really. Basically I'll have used my embellishing machine. I think I cut a piece of fabric kind of in a triangular shape because I knew I wanted it to sort of be a wave going out like that, and I put lots of different colours of turquoisey fabric on that I embellished and stitched. You can't entirely see the join. I kind of joined it up, and I made sure that it was the right size to go onto my sewing machine so I could stitch all the way around and stitch the two edges together. And I think I just about managed that. I might have hand stitched this bottom bit, the edges a bit together. I can't quite remember. As I say, it's a long time ago that I made it. And on the top, what I did on the top was I created a piece of lace. I mean, you could just use lace. I used soluble fabric and created a bit of lace, which then I was able to just sort of embroider onto the top as though it was all part of the same wave. So I hope that has piqued your curiosity. Thank you so much for asking. It's lovely when people mention things and say, please can you show me how we did that? As I say, I made it a long time ago, so I hope that helps. It's basically embellished and stitched like most things that I do. So we'll just pop her back up there in my little ball. So there we go. I hope that's, that's helped you. Yeah, I love making 3D pieces. I love the challenge. It's a bit like what I'm doing with this current piece. I really enjoy a challenge. I can do the free machine embroidery. That's, for me, that's like breathing. I just go and whiz things together, as you know. But that has come after many, many years of practicing. Okay, it's a bit like driving. I always say it's like you wouldn't get in a car and expect to drive it, you know, even in a straight line to start with. Yeah, so I find the free machine embroidery, to me, it's just very relaxing because I just sit down and let the machine do the work. So we're working on this lovely piece today. Thank you, Lou, for your suggestion that possibly we might even cut this in half. I think that's a definite possibility, but we will see. I'm not quite sure that I want it as a big deep bit at the beginning, but I certainly think bands of colour are what's going to be added into the mix to sort of fit in with my little sketch. And I think definitely we'll do another sketchbook video at some point, you know, when the mood takes me. So today we're just going to be getting on with this piece. We're going to work about how we're going to do the mountain and turn it into a mountain. It's just a flat piece at the moment, but I feel as though it's going to be a mountainy shape to fit in with my drawings. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your subscriptions. Thank you for your thumbs up. If you like the video, do leave me a thumbs up. If you want to know when my videos come out, I think you press the bell and it'll notify you. I mean, I'm generally here every week. I try and do that every week. Partly because I absolutely love doing it. This has made me very creative. I'm now working in quite a different way to how I've done in the past. This is my important bit in the week. You are very important. Top priority during the week, and then everything else kind of fits in around that. So let's get on and see where we get to today. Alright, so here we are again. This is where we left it last week, more or less. And I've been having a little bit of a think and a little bit of a play because I don't really know how to do this yet. But I know that if I just start playing around with some fabrics and start being a bit brave, sometimes you have to be a little bit brave and take a decision and actually act on that decision. It's a bit like life. I think art is very much like life. You have to show up and then things can happen for you. You have to show up and start the process. So I think the bit I want to work with, I'm going to move this down a little bit because I feel as though I want to work with this top end to start with. So to try and get the sky and some kind of mountainy shapes going on here. So what I've done is, rather than just cutting the fabrics, I thought I'm going to be brave because I'm a little bit kind of unsure about how this edge is going to be if I cut it, but I'm going to have a go at it, I think. So what I've done so far is I've cut myself a piece of paper. I kind of roughly did the mountain shape. Okay. So if I kind of put that on there, you can see straight away something changes. It defines that as a mountain or a hill, and it gives it a shape, which I really like. That's really helpful. I did start to cut out the green bit as well, and I realised that actually no, I needed to be able to put that on top of there like that, so that then gives me a feeling of that little hill. You can see that little green bit there, and then most of this sort of greyish, most of the greyish lilac-y bit there. So there we go. Okay, now so that helps. You see, that helps. That gives me an idea that that could be like that. And then we need to put some kind of, I need to put some kind of layering going on into here. So I'll just put the blue up there. Apologies, there's drilling going on outside, guys. I'm just trying to do a bit of filming, and there's some DIY stuff going on out there, so please just ignore it. I am. It's not too bad. Sometimes when the big saw's being used, it's very noisy. Yeah, so that's quite helpful, just to give you the shapes of what I want to have going on here, to try and mimic what's going on in the picture over here. And it's about feeling it, feeling that shape. And possibly I would make the sky a bit like this, maybe with some other fabrics on, and put it onto some of the curtain interlining fabric, which makes it a bit more quilted. And then possibly I could just cut the mountain shape and butt the sky and the mountain up to each other. I haven't quite decided. I think putting the sky just on top of it won't work because this is just flat. This needs to be the same sort of thickness as this, and then they could possibly butt up to each other. So that's all. This is what I'm working out, guys. This is like how I operate. It's nothing is set in stone. This is all about me exploring possibilities and finding ways of doing it. And by showing up and having a go and being a bit brave, even if it's just cutting paper to start with to the shapes that you want, you know, that's a start, isn't it? It's a gentle way. It's like having your hand held, so I don't actually have to cut the mountain straight away. We'll see. We'll just see how it goes. And if you do it slowly enough, I find that answers can just bubble up. Things you haven't thought of can just pop up into your mind, and you'll think, oh, yes, I could do it such and such a way. So the next bit, I think, is down here. I need to create some kind of a bit of a gap here. I want to try and fit in here. So I've got like a big lot of foreground thing going on down here, which is this piece. That's going to be my foreground, and that's going to have, I presume, big yellow flowers in it somehow. But it's this little bit here in the middle bit before we get to the mountains, and I'm thinking about how to do that. And funnily enough, at the weekend, when I was at my Meet the Makers Day, I was just faffing about with fabrics, and I was just layering this up. This was a piece that had stalks sewn on as a sample, and I just was adding little bits of fabric and seeing what happened. So these are just little bits of fabric that I've free machined down on top of a green stripy background that I've made previously. And I quite like, it's not perfect and it's not entirely exactly how I would like it, but I don't know which way up I would do it. It doesn't really matter which way up I'd do it because it's just a sample. I quite like the way that then gives you that horizontal lining going on again. As a contrast to this bit down here, so you could have some, you know, big yellow flowers down here perhaps, and then perhaps add some yellowy colours in here to make that, you know, some yellow and some green, but all kind of different shades of green. So this is kind of where I'm at, and it's quite exciting. It's also a bit scary because I've got to actually make this happen now. I've got a couple of choices here. I can do the sky first, or I can fiddle around with this sort of section next, but I think possibly I might be brave and work top down, and then that'll help to settle what's going to go here, I think. So let's see what I can do next. So actually, I feel the thing I'm going to do is, I think I'm just going to be really brave. I've drawn this shape and I really quite like it. I think it works. So I'm going to kind of pin that on there. I think at some point you just have to make the decision and be bold and do it, because then you can work from what you've got. And until you make that cut, you don't know what it's going to look like. So I'm just going to be really brave. Here we go. Here we go. Oops, that's just shifted a little bit, but that's okay. I'm just going to take that off there actually, so I can just do this. There we go. So that's that. So I didn't waste much there. You can see there's only a little bit left over. Let's get those out of there. So that's good. So I don't think I've ever done, you know, a piece of work in quite so many different sections before. Usually I think I would lay out the size, decide all of that beforehand, and then start putting the fabrics on that I want and play around with them like that on the whole piece. But this is really interesting because I'm doing it in sections and I'm having to work out how each section is going to go together. So I've cut the sky, I've put it onto a piece of, this is cotton curtain interlining that I use as my wadding, and a little piece of tearaway stabiliser, and I've actually pinned on a little piece of green mountain that I'm going to put there that's going to disappear behind this one. I think simple is always my motto, keeping it simple, keeping it just, you know, keeping it simple. How else can you say keeping it simple other than keeping it simple? I think less is more, and simple is always the best. So there we go. How's that? A little bit of sky, a little bit of hillside there. Now that is really simple stitching. I've just done some wiggly waggly lines. I feel that works quite nicely. It allows the quilted effect of the wadding to just create a little bit of texture in the sky. But as I say, I don't want it to be too fussy because I've got all the rest of this stuff going on further down the picture. So I'm going to put in my mountain. Ooh, this is so exciting. So I'm going to get this stitch down and be brave, and then I'll be moving on to the other sections. Okay, so I'm just going to stitch this edge down. I'm being very brave. I've got a nice dark coloured grey thread in my top bobbin, and I'm just going to go for it. Just comes a point where you've just got to do it. It's got quite a lot of thread. It's got quite a lot of fabric to sew through, so you can hear it just being a bit louder than usual, I think. So I'm just taking it real slow because there's quite a few layers. And what I'm going to do is I'll do my usual trick of I sew a little bit above the mountain. Just gives it a bit of lining. Now I'm going to then also do some I'm just messing around doing some lines on here. Now, as if you were sketching it with your pencil, I'm just adding dark lines. So it all helps sort of how the eye views this. Here we are. So I've stitched along the top of there, so that's actually given it quite a strong line, which I'm not sure 100% that I like that. I might revisit it. I like the outside line going around the outside on the sky, but for some reason I don't really like that bit, so I may well unpick that and just do some random stitching rather than having a hard line going around it. Okay, but well, I'll see. It's all trial and error. This is just making it up as I go along. Now on the back I realised that I've got obviously different layers of wadding going on here because I've done things in sections. So what I'm going to add on here for the mountain is I'm just going to put a bit of extra wadding in so that all of that mountain is going to be the same sort of weight and the same quality of wadding, so that I can stitch into there and it'll all look the same depth of stitching, if you like. It won't look odd. It won't look as though half of it is really deep and half of it isn't. So I think that'll be okay. And the other thing I've been thinking about actually is my edges. I've been thinking about my edges because they've been bothering me. And whilst I really do like these rough edges here, because I've got so many different things going on with this sky bit being as it is, I feel as though what I'm really going to do is actually I'm going to turn these edges in. I think that might be the simplest thing. It'll also give the whole piece some strength if I do this, because I'm thinking I might possibly not frame it. I might just turn it into a wall hanging as it is. So I'm thinking if I actually pin these edges in, that will give it a bit of coherence up the edges. So we'll just pin these things in like this. So edges are always really important. Sometimes I plan them and sometimes especially with this piece, which is just growing like topsy, so I'm going to possibly turn those in. I may have to add a little bit of fabric onto them, and I might have to just line it up a bit better. But just for now, I'm showing you it's quite rough there, but we'll see how that goes if I pay a bit more attention to it. This side's a bit easier, and you can see the stitch and tear. You can just literally, or the tear away stabilizer, you just tear it away where you don't want it, which is awfully useful. And that's got a nice big bit of grey fabric on there, so I can just turn that in. So I'm still keeping, there's still a bit of roughness going on, but it's not quite, and it's obviously not as smooth as up there. But I feel as though that's making me feel happy. I didn't want to frame it. I didn't want to lose the width of it by putting it into a mount. I just feel as though this can be something that can be hung on its own, in its own right. So I'll probably put a backing on it and work out that at some point. And then really, you see, when you start to put the other layers into position, this is just a sample that I showed you, and it's not finished. It's just an idea of how I can get some lines of yellow and green going across that way. And then of course there's the big fluffy bit that's going to go on down the bottom. And so we'll have so much going on that you really won't be thinking about the edges by the time I've finished. I don't think I want as much as that. I think it's going to be that sort of amount going across with some yellow added in somehow, and then something yellow in the foreground, some big yellow flowers in the foreground. So I feel as I'm getting there. It's a slow process. I hope you're enjoying this journey with me. It's lovely to have you on board, I have to say. So that's it for now, folks. See you again very soon. Bye for now.